On July 2nd, 1955, a Douglas DC-4 airplane with 57 passengers and 6 crew members took off from New York City, bound for Miami, Florida. But sadly, the plane disappeared and never arrived. Later, out of the blue, an airplane appeared in Caracas, Venezuela, and it was the Douglas DC-4 airplane that was missing. But instead of the plane being received with joy and happiness, they were received with fear, worry, and confusion. It turns out that not only did the plane arrive in the wrong destination, but at the wrong time. The plane that was missing on July 2nd, 1955, arrived in Caracas 30 years later, on exactly March 9th, 1985, leaving us to wonder, what the heck did we just witness? That morning, on the 2nd of July, the plane was scheduled to depart to Miami. Ordinarily, this should have just taken a few hours, but things didn't quite go according to plan. Captain Miguel Victoriano and his crew couldn't have prepared for the hailstorm that was about to unfold. After a smooth takeoff, the plane reached cruising altitude and the crew settled into their routine tasks, monitoring instruments and communicating with air traffic control. Then, without warning, Flight 914 disappeared from radar screens. The air traffic controllers in New York frantically tried to re-establish contact. It was a little too late. No one was picking up on the other end. Some hours later, military jets and personnel were scrambled to search the last known location of the plane, but they found nothing. It was as if the plane had vanished into thin air. There had been cases of mysterious disappearances prior to this point, but none of this scale. An entire airplane just vanishing was very strange. Then, the United States government sent out a rescue team. For days, rescue operations scoured the Atlantic, nearby mountains, and valleys from their last known bearing. They hoped to find wreckage or survivors from the crash, or some clue at the very least. Families of the passengers were left in a state of anguish, clinging to the hope that their loved ones might still be alive. However, despite the exhaustive efforts put into searching, no trace of the plane was found. As months rolled over, the incident was classified as one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Then, the search was called off. But here's where things take a 180 turn. On the 9th of September in 1992, air traffic controllers in Caracas, Venezuela were observing daily tasks when suddenly an old propeller-driven aircraft suddenly appeared on their radar. According to one of the crew, this plane seemed out of place. Reports claim that the plane seemed to appear out of nowhere and caused a stir in the control tower. Then they made contact with this unknown pilot. The pilot responded,
"This is Pan Am Flight 914 requesting permission to land."
The air traffic controllers were too stunned to speak. The identification number matched those of the plane that had disappeared about 37 years earlier. Skepticism morphed into disbelief when the plane landed and ground workers could see the passengers against the windows of the plane. They didn't look old, or as if they had aged for that matter. The plane that disappeared 3 decades ago was right before their eyes. Ironically, the passengers believed they were still en route to Miami, with no idea time had gone by. Authorities and medics swooped in from all angles to manage the situation. But just then, something unexplainable happened. The pilot brings up a calendar in view, as if to check for what day it was. Then he drops it outside the window. Suddenly, the airplane propellers start spinning as he takes off through the runway into the sky, never to be seen again. Now, in some versions of this story, the pilot didn't take off. When the plane landed in Venezuela, ground control saw the passengers and hastily aided them to safely exit the plane. Passengers walked out of the plane confused and disoriented. Many were taken for medical examinations and checkups. When the pilot was asked about the details of his travel and how he had appeared in Venezuela airspace, he had no response. According to him, one moment he was there and the next moment he was here. He was still in shock from the whole ordeal. Other things remained odd about this whole experience. There's the fact that the plane was still very much intact after 37 years. No scratch, no dent, no maintenance. Ground control that saw the plane run through the roads said it was like the plane had been preserved in a time capsule. If said aircraft had somehow survived 37 years, how was it still in mint condition, like it had never left the New York airport? Secondly, what about the passengers on board? There were no signs of aging, no face wrinkles, shrinking, nothing. It was as if their clothes and personal belongings had been temporarily frozen. Psychologically, however, the pilot, as well as the passengers, were fazed by this discovery. In 1955, when the plane initially disappeared, it was a huge deal, but some people didn't believe it. They had to see for themselves. Fast forward a couple of years, and the plane's appearance was settled now. The story captured global attention immediately. Media outlets, journalists, and famous personalities around the world quickly found themselves in Caracas to cover the story. Even aviation forensic experts, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the Air Accidents Investigation Branch were called in to figure out what had occurred. Families of the passengers who had long given up were overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. Think of a mix of joy, disbelief, and confusion. Nonetheless, families were reunited. Alright, so in one version of the story, the pilot arrived and just as quickly departed again. And in another version, the pilot and passengers safely landed and were rushed to emergency care. A happy ending and a not so happy ending. None of these possibilities still answer the question, where did the plane go? One of the most popular theories about this story is that Flight 914 headed straight into a strange area of time, which sent it 37 years into the future. Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity supports this theory because it says that time can move slower or faster depending on the situation. According to Einstein, time ran slower in stronger gravitational fields. For example, time would pass more slowly near a massive object like a planet or star. So here's the scenario. As Flight 914 entered the wormhole, the passengers and crew experienced extreme time dilation due to the intense gravitational fields. Now, to an outside observer, the plane would seem to vanish in 1955, whereas time was just passing slowly for the people on the plane. After the incident, authorities realized the implications of this discovery and decided to smartly cover it up. Some physicists think that time anomalies could happen in certain situations. Physicist John Kramer has talked about how time can be affected in areas with strong gravity. Just look at the Philadelphia experiment, where a ship supposedly disappeared and then reappeared. Nonetheless, some people think a wormhole or the time travel fiasco was hard to believe for the time period. What wasn't so hard to believe, though, were UFOs. In the 1950s, people saw strange objects in the sky. This led many to believe it could have been our planet's neighbors, aliens. Those who believe this theory think that the plane was taken into an alien spaceship, studied, and then returned to Earth, maybe by accident or as part of a bigger experiment. Eyewitnesses around the time of the incident said they had seen many hovercrafts in the sky, and these aircraft weren't familiar. They couldn't quite describe the images in the sky, but they had pictures. These witnesses make the theory more believable. Also, the passengers and crew couldn't quite remember what had happened during the missing years. This was a very common theme among UFO abduction cases floating around, such as the case of the Benny and Barney Hill abduction in September of 1961. According to the story, the Hills were driving home from a vacation in Canada when they claimed to have encountered a UFO. They also reported seeing strange lights in the sky and experienced a period of missing time. The Hills initially had no memory of the abduction, only missing time and strange physical sensations. Their memories later surfaced through hypnotic regression sessions. Perhaps the passengers on board had experienced a similar ordeal that left them disoriented. Equally, there's another case of Travis Walton, who was working with a logging crew in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest when they encountered a bright light in the sky. Walton reportedly approached the beam of light and was struck down and knocked unconscious. His co-workers, believing him dead, fled the scene in a panic. Walton would appear 5 days later, disoriented and with no memory of what had happened. Again, memory loss. The Allagash abductions in Maine on August 20th, 1976, with 4 friends, were no different. Jim, Jack, Charlie, and Chuck were on a camping trip when they experienced a close encounter with a UFO while night fishing. They saw a bright light and were taken aboard a spacecraft. After the ordeal, the friends underwent several medical examinations, but they all couldn't initially give accounts of the event due to memory loss. By the way, look out for these videos on the channel if they aren't already there. If there's any video you'd like us to talk about, feel free to comment below. It wouldn't be such a leap to say that the passenger memories on Flight 914 had been wiped, and the UFO theory seemed very plausible. Well, that could explain the loss of memories for everyone on board, but how did they disappear? From 1947 to 1991, during the Cold War, the government worked on many secret projects and experiments. Some people think that Flight 914 was one of these secret projects, possibly involving new technology or time travel capabilities. Scientists theorized that the plane's return meant that the experiment had failed. The government also wanted to avoid more questions about it, so the smart decision would be to keep everything under wraps. Several documents have been made public which prove the government was indeed working on secret projects during the Cold War. Some witnesses have also shared classified information that new and experimental technologies were being tested at the time. One such technology was the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, aka MOL. During the 1960s, a secretive U.S. Air Force project called MOL was created, aimed at establishing a military space station. MOL was intended to conduct reconnaissance missions and gather intelligence using advanced observation equipment, including high-resolution cameras. In an ideal world, the program was designed to place astronauts in orbit to operate these surveillance systems, thus enhancing U.S. capabilities during the Cold War. Some possibilities emerge from the MOL project. It is possible that the Pan Am flight could have crossed paths with a covert MOL mission. While flying over the Atlantic, the aircraft might have encountered a malfunctioning component of the MOL. An electromagnetic anomaly was created, causing the flight to disappear. Well, if this theory tracks and MOL operations indirectly affected Flight 914, the U.S. Air Force would have classified the incident to prevent public knowledge of their secrets. That would explain the disappearance of evidence such as the calendars and tower tapes, as well as how the flight vanished from New York's airspace and Atlantic waters. Another possibility could be that MOL was testing experimental technologies related to space and time manipulation, much like the purported objectives of the Philadelphia experiment. In 1943, the Philadelphia experiment, aka Project Rainbow, was conducted, in which a naval military decided to test one of their emerging technologies. An experiment that would supposedly make the USS Eldridge invisible to radar detection. Well, here's the brief of the story. The experiment caused the ship to jump rift between 2 time periods. This had several physical and psychological effects on the crew, with reports that humans were glued to the walls of the ship. The sight was horrifying. But just like Flight 914, the ship returned. many have surmised that the plane's reappearance might be due to the same technology used on Project Rainbow. The plane had gone invisible through time, also causing it to time warp. With many of the theories so far, one common point is the possibility that the government covered everything up. All evidence was scrapped and hidden from the public. Well, that's fine and believable for the most part, but how do you explain the passengers not remembering anything? Again, you'd say it could be memory loss from a UFO encounter, but this was different from the average UFO experience. Abductees could recollect their memories after hypnosis or hypnotic regression. None of the flight members could do this. This leads to the next question. How did the government manage to wipe the minds of the members on board? Well, some think this was all part of the MK-Ultra project. The MK-Ultra was a covert CIA program that aimed to develop mind control techniques through the use of drugs, hypnosis, and other methods. The program ran from the early 1950s until the early 1970s and involved numerous unethical experiments. In some darker theories, said experiments were conducted on unwilling human subjects. The theory goes that Pan Am Flight 914 was caught in MK-Ultra's experiment involving mass hypnosis or a mind-altering substance. Members on board the flight later reported cases of strange dizziness, headaches, and fever. Perhaps this was due to Project MK-Ultra. Anyways, once Operation Mindwipe was done, all that was left to complete the cover-up was the erasure of physical evidence. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, head of MK-Ultra, has been extensively documented through declassified CIA files. He was the one responsible for oversight of experiments involving LSD, hypnosis, and so on. In 1977, surviving members of MK-Ultra experiments testified about their experiences.
In the early days of the Cold War, the CIA ordered the creation of a secret program intended to find ways of mind control. They funded an army of psychiatric institutions across the United States and Canada to perform experiments on unsuspecting patients using psychedelic drugs, sensory deprivation, electroshock treatment, and more. The program was known by its codename, MK-Ultra. At the end of the Korean War, a number of freed American POWs came home seemingly brainwashed and espousing communist propaganda. American officials suspected that the soldiers had been subjected to what they thought were new communist mind control techniques. Alarmed by the situation, the newly formed CIA allocated $25 million for psychiatric experiments on human beings.
It was the most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States. Patients at psychiatric hospitals, prisoners in federal institutions, and even people in the public were given drugs without their awareness or consent and experimented upon.
Initial projects within MK-Ultra included Operation Midnight Climax.
They established what were called safe houses, where prostitutes would lure men to these apartments, and then once the men were in the apartments, they were dosed with LSD, and then they were basically studied by CIA scientists, usually behind a two-way mirror.
My father was a victim of Dr. Cameron. He was a 27-year-old, healthy skier, canoeer, very athletic, and he had asthma. They told him if he went to the Allen Memorial, they could cure his asthma.
My father, Charles, was a patient of Dr. Cameron's. He had a trigeminal neuralgia, it's called, where there's a pain in the temple that radiates into the jaw that apparently is excruciatingly painful. They told him that it was psychosomatic, which it's not, but in those days, what did they know? So they sent him to a shrink. This shrink that he went to was working with Cameron, although we didn't know. So he put my father right into the program.
Yeah, these experiments were brutal. So far, we've looked at the possible theories that could explain how the Pan Am flight suddenly disappeared that day, and we still don't have a definite answer as to what happened. Well, that could be because some of these theories crack under thorough analysis. Let's take a step back and rewind to the possibility of time travel. Experts in physics say that time travel and wormholes are interesting ideas, but it's certainly not possible with the technology we have now. One major a huge amount of energy, possibly exotic matter which we currently can't produce. The critique of this theory is that creating a time portal or wormhole would require use. But let's say for 1 second that traveling through time was indeed possible. How could the passengers on board have survived? You see, our current understanding of physics suggests that traveling through time, especially in a non-linear fashion, would subject both the human body and the aircraft to extreme stresses. Gravitational forces, radiation exposure, and molecular disintegration amongst a few. However, according to the story, passengers on Flight 914 showed no conditions of time travel could have serious damaging effects on the aircraft, let alone the human body. I mean, if traveling from one place to another can cause us serious physical or medical issues upon reappearance. In reality, even a short duration of exposure to the hypothetical issue till now was lies. Well, not my lies, but lies from the original creators. In the case of jet lag, can you imagine what traveling through time would do to your body? But that's not what kills this story. What kills this story is that everything I've told during the time of the incident, photos of a particular plane model, the DC-4 Douglas, were in circulation. However, while this photograph was used by Weekly World News to illustrate the story of the Pan Am flight, it turns out this image was a stock image available on Almany. Almany is a popular stock photo website. In 1985, the Weekly World News, a tabloid known for sensational and fabricated stories, published an article about the disappearance of Flight 914. Later on, the story gained more attention when Brightside posted a video about the Pan Am flight on their YouTube channel. In the original old newspapers, we can see two different men claiming to be the same eyewitness, doing a sloppy job at curating a hoax. Though, to be fair to the newspaper, they didn't think anyone would take them seriously. The lies became a hit, with everyone believing the story, so much so that the same newspaper did another similar story of a disappearing aircraft with the same formula and still got the same positive response. This was equivalent to having influencers selling you crypto with promises of being rich, only for it to die a month later. But the fact that people were able to believe in this story, even though they knew its sources as one that publishes stories as, well, stories, shows how little people go into fact-checking things and just go with the flow. Just because a big news source or media posts something, it doesn't mean it's true. We should always learn to fact-check every piece of information we get. Yes, it can be tiring, but it saves us from making the wrong decision and possibly falling into scams. After collecting every detail of this story, it became evident that the Pan Am flight was just an elaborate hoax. Now, this story was a lie, but there is this story that, even though it sounds like a lie, it isn't, and I think it's one of the most accurate coverings of a UFO case I've ever done.